Thanks, everybody. Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Ricky Kimler. And you know, in 1978, the great John Carpenter unleashed his horror masterpiece, one of his many horror masterpieces, actually, on audiences. Michael Myers and Laurie Strode were born. After many, many sequels, Jamie Lee Curtis has returned as Laurie Strode, and director David Gordon Green and writer Danny McBride's excellent reimagining and return to Hadenville. Let's take a look at Halloween. Jamie Lee Curtis, everybody!
Wow. Wowie, wow, wow. I gotta tell you something.
Welcome back.
Thank you so much. I must tell you, that movie was made by a filmmaker. Yeah. That wasn't a director. That was a filmmaker. And every time I see any of it, I am just jaw-dropped by the talent of David Gordon Green. I am so lucky that he did this movie.
It feels like the first time, not knocking anybody that's done a Halloween prior to David, since John Carpenter, we haven't gotten someone who has a cinematic language telling a Halloween story since Carpenter and 1978.
We also didn't have a story worth telling. Sorry. That sounds terrible.
I'm so sorry. On my stage.
Sorry, writers. I'm not throwing you under the proverbial, the bus crashed. I don't think there was a story to tell the way this has a story. This has a story, people. Like, it's bigger than us because it's the T word, trauma. We're all talking about it. Everywhere in the world, we're talking about women predominantly coming forward who've been aggressed in some fashion and taking back the narrative of their lives from their perpetrator. And this is it writ large. Fiction, thank goodness, but very powerfully told. And so, and all of that was written before Me Too, Time's Up, all the rest of it, which weirdly enough, is this live?
Yeah, we're live, yeah. And you can say whatever you want.
No. And what's the date today? October 10th, a year ago, is when Ronan Farrow's article appeared. 1 year, people. That's how much has happened. And this movie was written before that. So it's interesting to me that this movie is showing up when Dr. Ford, a week after Dr. Ford raised her hand and told her truth, a week after that piece of shit Bill Cosby shuffled his way to prison. I am so happy that it was a week later, but this is happening now, all of it, all of this power being taken back. And here we have this movie that allows you to experience all of those feelings in a safe place and watch a really scary, beautifully made movie. And so I'm just really happy about it.
No, you know, you're absolutely right. When I was watching
I'm always right, baby. Mommy is always right.
When I was watching the film, I was thinking about trauma because that's a lot of what is being talked about in the movie, but I didn't think of how cathartic this movie could potentially be watching it after the last few weeks, after the last year we've kind of had as a culture. Cathartic is for a woman. I mean, most of the time horror movies are thought of as like a boys' club.
Right.
Even though women are the central characters, they're still thought of from the perspective of men. And while men made this movie, this does very much feel like the women kind of get, you know, it goes a different way for the women stars. Yeah. I didn't want to spoil anything. That's why I paused
I mean,
there.
it's obviously it's a story of 3 generations of trauma. We explore that through women. And obviously there's a collision, if you will, between good and evil that occurs in this beautiful film made by David Gordon Green. I just want to say basically I should just say David Gordon Green, David Gordon Green, David Gordon Green on your show for the rest of the day.
I've never met an actor that didn't absolutely love working with David Gordon Green.
Well, that's why, by the way, the reason I'm in the movie, honestly, the last thing in the world I thought I would do is another Halloween movie. I was unemployed, which I am often.
Enjoyably so?
Well, look, I'm an actor for hire. I'm unemployed. I mean, that's just the basic gig. If you have a contract for something, I did yogurt commercials that made you poop. But for 7 years, because it was a contract. And it gave me a certain amount of money a year, and I traveled for the company, and I was able to stay home with my kids and be a mom and do the things I wanted to do. As an actor, I am primarily unemployed, except for the moments I've had gigs that had any contract associated with them. And so because of that, I sort of make the joke that I don't work very often. Why am I telling you this? You have to remember, I was in Europe like 2 days ago, and why did I?
Because we were talking about why you did the film, why David Green. Yeah.
So the last thing I was unemployed. And I was being unemployed and playing golf, which is what some unemployed people do. And I was playing with my husband, and the phone rang. And the phone was from Jake Gyllenhaal, who I've known since he was a young kid, and I've been able to watch him and his sister Maggie become great artists, deep dive artists. And it's been thrilling to be their friend and godmother. And Jake called me and said that he had this incredible experience making the movie Stronger with David Gordon Green, that beautiful movie that they made about Jeff Bauman and the Boston bombing, and talk about trauma. I mean, that's trauma. Ours is fiction. That was real, and they made a beautiful movie, and Jake was extraordinary in his portrayal. And so Jake called and literally said, I had this very creative experience, more so than I've had. And David wants to talk to you about a Halloween movie. And I was like, okay. The last thing I thought I'd do is Halloween movie. Last thing in the world.
You know, Jake says I had this very creative experience.
Yeah.
When normally when someone contacts you for a Halloween movie or something along those lines, is the first thing that you think that this is going to be a creative experience?
No.
Or is it like this is going to be hitting the marks, hitting the beats and getting out of there?
No, I would lie to you if somebody had called me for a Halloween movie. I would have thought it was about money. I mean, it would have been some way to make money, and they would have had to pay me money. I got paid scale to work with David.
For this?
$14,000
Wow.
total since a year ago, January or whatever.
So what was it about, not just David, but what was it about his and Danny McBride's approach to the material that drew you in?
So we were talking about it for a second backstage. I know you're going to think it was because you've seen the movie. Well, you haven't. I'm sorry. It's really intense and fantastic, but you have. Yeah. So the movie opens, we were talking about in that insane asylum that you've seen in the trailer, the checkerboard floor and that intense sequence. But that's not how the movie opened, or the script I read. The script I read had Allison, my granddaughter, who was a high school runner, running in the morning before school through Haddonfield. And my memory of it, because this was a while ago, this was over a year ago that I'd read it, she's running through Haddonfield almost by a welcome to Haddonfield sign. Do you know what I mean? Population, whatever the population is. Tree-lined streets, every town USA. Beautiful girl, strong, she's an athlete. Andy Matichik, the actress who plays my granddaughter, and Judy Greer, they look so much like my family. They're both amazing in the movie. It was great working with them. But Andy,
Judy Greer was like incredible casting to be your daughter. Yeah.
And Andy is running through Haddonfield, the opening credits, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then she ends up going home. She runs upstairs. And in her bedroom, she opened a louvered hanging closet door, and she pulled a bare bulb light to illuminate her clothes. And in that instant, I went, oh, that's gorgeous. We're back in the closet. 40 years later, but it's my granddaughter. And I just thought that was poetry. And I honestly would have called him after reading page 5 and said, yeah, I'm done, let's do it.
And then you get this survivalist character.
And then I
completely...
read the rest of it. It had nothing to do with Laurie Strode. Like the first thing, it was the poetry and the beauty of basically the, you know, letting the sands of time go through that 40-year hourglass in a credit sequence with no flashbacks, no images of Laurie as a young woman. Andy Matichik running through Haddonfield, ending, pulling that bulb, moving that louvered closet door, and just establishing the territory that we were in. I just thought that was gorgeous.
Yeah, I think that's a great reference for how they approach the material as a whole, which is that it's consistently, I wouldn't say homaging, but referential to the world while never falling under the weight of it. Yeah. So still operating in their own framework while at the same time you have a version of a John Carpenter score happening mixed with a bit of a new score. Yeah. And you have this kind of same thing where it's like the closet is there, but in a slightly new, recontextualized way.
Yes, and I am not the intellectual to talk to you because you clearly are.
It's a uniform.
Like, I wish David was sitting here right now because David would articulate all of that with you. You guys would throw this back and forth like two guys used to throw the ball like baseball, when you're 8 and you play ball and you just, as my husband says, have a catch. And it's just throwing the ball back and forth like you guys would be like deep diving together.
It'd be two nerds going, and then you did Texas Chainsaw
exactly.
too.
But I mean, I'm not a nerd in that way. I don't have a deep historical background to the whole thing. I just know my experience. I'm experiential.
But you got it right there from the beginning of that
script. But I'm saying the poetry, the beauty of my granddaughter in the closet let me know we were going to be back in that frickin' closet again at some point, and that the experiences of Laurie Strode's life had been passed through a child. I didn't even know at that time that Karen had been taken from Laurie. I didn't know that. I just knew that was my granddaughter and she was in a closet, and it scared me. Yeah. Like when she turned on the light went on in my head. Shit, she's gonna be in danger. That's my granddaughter. Like right away I felt empathy, care, concern, protection, all of the feelings that we have as human beings for someone in our family. That's how I felt.
And then what did you think when you got to the part where your character was introduced as this woman who is a survivalist, who's sort of been through her own pain, has a bit of possibly has a drinking problem and has had one and has trouble relating and connecting to people due to the trauma that she faced 40 years ago?
Well, you just described trauma right there, literally.
It seemed like the first time in this series, at least, that the writers actually confronted the actions that had taken place within the horror movie, which we never get in horror movies.
Well, but that's why, okay, I'm telling you, can we just call David Gordon Green and just like have him like FaceTime in? Because the two of them, I would actually probably tell you to go get a room because you guys would be like, because that's exactly right. We haven't seen a movie about what we hear a lot about it. We have the experience of watching people in these movies, but we actually don't know what actually happens the next day. My conversation with David was, when I showed up, was, I think I know what happened to Laurie Strode on November 1st, 1978. She went back to school. But the day before, she was smart, sweet, innocent, romantic, was teased easily by her friends. She sang a song of wishing for love and connection. I wish I had you all alone, just the two of us. I would hold you close to me, so close to me. It's very romantic. And the next day, she went back to school with her arm with a bandage on it and her best friend's dead. And she walked down the hall of school because her parents were like, honey, you're okay. Go back to school. And when she walked down that hall, instead of being Laurie Strode, she was like, oh my God, there's Laurie Strode. Shh, don't look at her. Don't look at her. Oh my God, that's Laurie Strode. That's Laurie. You guys, that's Laurie Strode. Oh my God, that's so weird. Oh my God. Like, she became a freak. That's what trauma does to you. It turns you into a freak. And if you don't have somebody to help you, like Christine Ford didn't have anybody to go to the next day. When you don't have that, you suffer. And what happens is you internalize it, and it like eats you alive. And that's why all of these women are coming forth with their story of how it ate them alive. Eating disorders, alcoholism, self-abuse, cutting, bad relationships, inability to connect, all of the things that happen when you aggress someone and they don't get the help they need. That's exactly what you said. We never see that. And so I was thrilled that that was who we were going to meet. We're going to meet. This is what trauma looks like. And we did. And that's why I was so thrilled with their interpretation of Laurie and what I could do to help them, you know? And by the way, you know, she's not a survivalist for an ice storm.
No, of course
you
not.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, she's not a survivalist for hurricanes or anything. She's a survivalist for Michael Myers, and that is the only person she is thinking about every day, to the detriment of everything in her life. Every relationship, every drunk banging into somebody, literally ending up with a child, all of it. Like, all of it is one purpose, singular of purpose. And that's who you see in the trailer, that whole thing of, I've been waiting for him to escape. Why? So I can kill him.
You know, you said that we're talking a lot about trauma, and we're talking about Christine Blasey Ford, and I'm just curious what you think if the last 2 years we've all been kind of experiencing a fair amount of trauma and an aggressor in this country, because you're talking about trauma and the way that it affects us, and I feel like so many of us just on a daily basis feel like we're being aggressed against.
Well, we are. We are being aggressed against, and that's how democracy works, and we have a job to do. So we can make our singular of purpose one thing and one thing only. And so I don't want to chastise or proselytize here until you find people, and all you find people out there in the dark, what to do. But if you haven't done something today to change this, it's not going to change. It's not going to change. Like, our job is to do something. That's how it works. Democracy works. So one side wins, one side loses. It's happened all the way from the beginning of how this was founded. It is an active process. And yes, I think many people who disagree with the current administration, who wanted, well, I understand, we can all raise, and by the way, raising your hand in protest is why we live in America, because you're allowed to raise your hand right now in front of people and go, me too, I feel that way. But if we don't back it up with some action, with either giving some money to a candidate, there are some races around this country that are very exciting. Send them $5 if you have $5. Send them $1 if you have $1. Do something. Go to your high school, where you went to high school. Go to your principal. Say, how can I help register your 18-year-olds to vote? How can I talk to your senior class? What can I do to help you? I'm not suggesting that I do my bit. You know what I mean? I do it. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm saying this is how democracy works. And we lost. That's how democracy works.
Time to win.
Well,
Or
time to change. Time, you know, courage to change. We have to change something. Nothing changes unless something changes. And so if you don't like, you know, what's going on, we as the community of we, have to do it. And that's the beauty of America. And it really is the beauty of America. It is how this country was founded. It is how this country will change. But it's a very difficult time. We have to be vigilant and aware and not allow things to go by easily without our commenting. You know, it is an active thing. We have social media. It's social media. It's not sort of masturbatory media, although it looks that way sometimes.
Oh, come on, you take selfies every now and then.
I wrote a book about taking selfies for children. My new book for children, which is available today, the subtitle is A Cautionary Tale. And the book is called Me, My Selfie, and I.
What made you want to write that?
I write books for children. I wrote it because somebody gave me a selfie stick and I started to squeal with thrill. I was so excited by it. And obviously, I am a human being in the world, and there is an obsession with ourselves. We are obsessed. Every young person I know stares at that phone all day long. Old people, that's how we get our news. You know, we all will go, oh, yeah, but you know what? This isn't news. This is shopping. You know what I mean? It's just, we're obsessed. We're just obsessed with ourselves. And says a woman sitting on a stage with a microphone and cameras on her. You know? I mean, it's
true.
ironic.
This ends up trivializing everything we read. It's just another piece of content that we absorb.
But we have to change the things we can, and as parents, we have to change it. We have to. If not, you're going to have you probably do have 5-year-olds sitting there like this. You know, it's really going to implode on us, and it's going to be a big problem. And then you'll have a revolution about it. And then, so there are ways to circumnavigate it. It's a good tool. It can be incredibly helpful. And then there's times for it to be unplugged. There's a lot of new places in Los Angeles, because of course everything sort of progressive starts in LA, called Unplugged. I'm sure you maybe have them in the city. Is there such a thing in New York City? No, sorry. Don't hate me. It's a place where you go and you unplug. You literally unplug your device. You actually can go in and sit and just be in meditation. You can just sit quietly. You can think. You can just be in a place without a device plugged. You know, it's unplugging. So this is a bigger conversation, but it's a concern of mine. And writing books for children is a way to communicate that idea to parents. And so,
because parents have to read those books to children often.
Because parents are the teacher.
Yeah.
Period. That we all hand them off to these schools and teachers saying, educate our kids. We are the teacher. If you're a mom and you look in the mirror and just go, oh my God, I'm such a fat pig, don't be surprised when your 13-year-old daughter looks in the mirror and goes, oh my God, I'm such a fat pig. It's just what they've learned. If you, and I'm sober, 20 years coming up, hopefully, touch some wood. Is this wood? No, but wait. But, and I'm not proselytizing. Believe me, I would love to be able to have a cocktail once in a while and relax and get the benefit of that. But I'm an alcoholic, so I can't do that. But again, if you have a bad day at work, and the first thing you do is you walk in your house and go, oh, I had the shittiest day. I need a fucking beer. Give me a beer. Or I need a drink. Like, again, don't be surprised when your 13-year-old has a really shitty day. And you get the call that they're at a party and they're puking in the bushes because they've consumed so much beer because they had a shitty day. We are the teachers. We are their teachers, whether we like it or not, by the way. The phones are not their teachers. Their screens are not their teachers.
I'm going to ask, before I go to audience questions, ask another question about the movie.
Can I just move in here?
Absolutely.
Seriously. Can we just, I say, occupy. What if we just didn't leave? Well, I'm not like, do you have a change of clothes or anything? I mean, I have a half a bottle. We could pool our stuff. I have like a half bottle of water and maybe 4 Mentos in my purse. And then, maybe somebody has some crackers. We could just share it all.
You keep saying that you're not proselytizing. If you are proselytizing, I like it. Go ahead.
But I'm saying is I don't want people who like to have a cocktail, who've worked hard to be able to have that cocktail. I don't want them to think I'm saying to them, you're bad. I'm saying don't be surprised is all about kids.
What did you think when you saw this new Halloween, when you saw it for the first time, and how did it relate to the first time you saw the original Halloween when you were, how old were you in the first?
I was 19 years old. I probably turned 20 that November. So it came out October 78, and I turned 20 November 22nd. So I don't remember seeing it. I will tell you this. John Carpenter said, I want her to be vulnerable. And to be honest, at 19, I don't think I could spell vulnerable. I don't think I knew what it meant. I just kind of looked at him and was like, okay, yeah, me too. But I really don't think I knew really what it meant. I knew what the character was, and I could identify and all that. And then I saw the movie in Hollywood on a Saturday night, 10 o'clock screening, and the place was packed. And we're watching the movie, and it works so great, and people were definitely scared. And then when Laurie leaves the house, the kids are asleep. She's just had the phone call with PJ, where PJ's on the other end of the phone, having things where things don't go so well. And Laurie's hearing the noises and going like, stop it. Mm-hmm. And then she leaves the house and she goes over to see what's going on at the house. When Laurie's walking across the street and the camera goes to the house and then the camera's on Laurie's face looking at it, back and forth, halfway through the street, this woman stood up in the middle of this theater and screamed out loud, "Don't go in there!" And in that moment, I totally understood what John had done. Like, if you didn't have that reaction in that moment, the movie didn't work. And there it was, writ large, and that entire theater like started all of a sudden now people start vocalizing, and it became audience participation movie, and it became that then for all those years.
And what about when you saw this for the first time?
Again, I saw the beauty of it. David Gordon Green. I mean, I really saw a filmmaker. That opening sequence in the mental institution is so beautifully photographed. The details, who he shoots, the inmates, the faces, the way time shifts in this sort of fragmented way. And by the way, I love the conceit that we have some story to tell about the history of Laurie Strode, and that he's putting it into the mouths of two English podcasters. You know, these two fish called Wandas out of water. Do you know what I mean? Like these two pasty, red hair, very pale English people who've arrived in Haddonfield to uncover new insights to the story. But what they do is they tell the story. They get to tell the story because they're podcasters. That's what they do. That's why we all tuned into those Serial and Making a Murderer and all that. This whole idea of revisiting crime was just a genius way of putting all of that plot, all that history in the mouths of these two.
And also a very clear way of reopening the wounds of reopening these traumas wounds, both literally.
Absolutely,
and
because they're
figuratively.
wanting something from Laurie. That scene that's in the trailer where she's sitting there and she's talking to them. They're hoping that they're going to get something, and they just almost do. And then she shuts it down because, again, she's so wounded. She doesn't trust these people. But she's so trapped and alone that to talk to anybody, somebody leaning in, there's that phrase, leaning in, this. I don't know if you, in Entertainment Weekly magazine, they did an article about the movie, and we took these photographs, and it's Entertainment Weekly, great magazine. They cannot put something super scary on the cover, so it was me, and it was great stuff and really funny pictures. But then there's a portrait of Jamie meeting Laurie 40 years later. I'll show it to you after it's on my phone, which I don't take selfies on. And Art Streiber and Michelle Romero, the photo editor and the photographer, were showing me, like, we're going to do a picture like this, and we're going to do a picture like this. And it was Face Off, from the sort of John Travolta thing. Two faces facing each other. And I looked at it, I said, oh, that's going to be beautiful. That'll be really beautiful. I said, but the truth of the matter is, I would go like this. And then I would go like this. No, because I would do to Laurie what she didn't get. I would touch her and kiss her and say, it's gonna be okay. You're safe. And no one did that for her. And that's, how did I even get there? How did I get there? Back it up, flip it, reverse it, come on. Say again? Yeah, I know, but why did I go to that picture?
We were talking about what you thought when you saw this movie for the first time. Oh, we were talking about the podcasters and then pulling the trauma out.
Right, so that, like that, there you go.
I feel good about that. I feel good about that.
Come on, but
To be fair, I was enjoying wherever we went.
but that's what she never got. You see, there weren't those people, and here these fake journalists are trying. They're not really interested in helping Laurie Strode. They want a scoop, and then they want to take that scoop and then make money off it. And for a second, she believes them, and you see this longing for her to talk about it.
To be understood.
To be understood, to have somebody put their hand on her face and kiss her on her forehead and say, Laurie, it's going to be okay. You are going to be safe, baby. And in that second, she stops, and then you get to watch clank, dun, the door shut in their faces of her emotions. And that was very powerful.
You know, you came back as Laurie Strode both in the first sequel and then in H2O. But do you feel like this is the first time where you feel a kind of ownership of the character?
No. Because H2O, you know, and by the way, I'm going to say something I said last night, but it was not filmed. So this will be filmed. So those, you know, the few people who were in the audience will go, wow, she's telling the same story. But the truth of the matter is we work this shit out as we're saying it. Like, I didn't come here with any canned ideas. Like, we'd never met. I didn't know what this is. I didn't know how the conversation would go. No, I'm being honest. What we figured out last night, first time I've ever said these words out loud, when you're aggressed in a violent way, you have three choices. You die, you run, or you live with it until you can't live with it another moment, and then you take it back. And H2O was about a woman on the run. She changed her name. She just ran. She wasn't Laurie Strode anymore. She had a new name. She had a child. She was living her life, being a person at a school, and he came back. But that was that choice. And in the running, there was alcohol and drugs, and there was still trauma, but it was running from it. And then there's a moment at the end of the movie where she does try to face it. This movie is about the trauma. This is feeling it. This is actually seeing it in process. And then the moment of her waiting patiently for him to come back so that she can take back the power. Because you can't get it back for yourself without taking it back from them. And again, may I just say one more time that Mr. Cosby is enjoying his prison meal today. Mr. Nasser, Dr. Nasser, is enjoying his prison meal today. Harvey Weinstein is trying to figure out what he's going to eat in prison when he is charged with a crime, which I believe he will be. He is not yet. And many other men who've lost their positions of power and prestige, who have lost it because they abused that power, and it gives me great satisfaction, again, to hear those stories and support those stories of women taking it back, which is what our movie's about.
Absolutely.
So, just so you know, the photographers outside have all been told I'm going to another engagement when I leave here. I had the person from, because if there's a camera here, you can see them. They're all just standing there like this. They're right outside my door. I couldn't figure out who was out there. There's like, hi, everybody, wave, hi, hi. Look, they're all like there. They're like, hi, hi, everybody, you're on TV, hi. Okay, you know, yeah, no, sorry.
We
call that lying in wait.
Who's got a question right now, right here?
Hi. So our first question is going to come from an online viewer. Samuel wants to know what draws you to horror projects since you've been in Prom Nights, this franchise, and Scream Queens.
Nothing draws me to horror movies. I don't like them. And The Fog. I don't like them. I scare easily. I don't find anything pleasurable about being frightened. I like comedies and things that make me cry. So it's just a weird curio, Samuel, that I ended up being in horror movies because I don't like them. Any other one?
Hi. Thank you for being here.
Thank
I was
you.
just wondering, were there any similarities between your character of Laurie and like you in real life?
Obviously, I have never suffered that sort of trauma. That real, by the way, or fictional. But I am a human being, and I have been lonely, and I have been scared, and I have a lot of feelings, and I'm an actor, and I could relate to her very, very easily. And I have 2 children, and the idea that they would have been taken from me, just thinking about it would put me back in the place that Laurie Strode is in. So I'm different than her, but obviously very similar in many ways. Thank you. Whoa.
She is you in some ways.
Well,
You
guys,
created her.
I mean, she is me. I am her. I'm an untrained actor, so I just put on the skin and the clothes of the person I like pretending to be another person has never been difficult for me since I was a little kid.
What do you mean you're an untrained actor?
I'm untrained. I have no training.
And you never took it, never did any training?
Nothing.
How come?
I didn't need it.
Fair enough.
And by the way, you're not seeing. Okay, I just saw Edie Falco on stage at downtown or near here. I don't know where I am. I'm somewhere in the universe in a dark room with lights. So, but I just saw it yesterday. She is an amazing actress. My friend Maggie Gyllenhaal is an amazing actress.
Doing the work of her life right now on the Deuce.
On the Deuce.
Unbelievable.
And all of them are trained and have deep, deep dives into their craft. I just became an actor by accident and have been able to do everything that's ever been asked of me. I've never been asked to play Lady Macbeth. And my guess is I won't. But in the roles that I have been asked to do, the work has not been hard for me, and therefore I didn't need to complicate it with something that I didn't need.
One more.
One more.
Right here.
Hello.
What did it feel like for you returning to this movie franchise that you've been a part of for so many decades?
Well, I'm so glad you're wearing a George Orwell 1984 t-shirt, sweetheart. That is, that's just sort of making a statement. I'm very happy to see a young person wearing that because it's not a dissimilar time, is it? You know what? I'm just going to be honest with you. I think our time is running to is it almost over?
Yeah.
Yeah? You aren't me. You have shown me kindness and appreciation in a way that I can't really explain to you how it feels. I've been a show-off my whole life. I've been an actor since I was 18 years old by accident. And I'm going to be 60 on Thanksgiving. And all I can tell you is, oh, she's snapping too. But I never thought I would have any of this. None of it. Not 1 second of it. And so every single thing I have ever done has been a surprise and a delight to me. And I take not 1 second of it for granted. And I feel privileged in a way and grateful for the support from strangers and friends and family. But you can't know how I feel, but you have to know how much I appreciate support and the encouragement that I have gotten. I don't know why I got it. And there are a lot of people in this world that don't get that kind of encouragement, and I've gotten my lion's share worth. but I never expected it ever, not 1 second. And I am grateful beyond words to you strangers, to the people watching who've supported it, to the people who will ultimately go and see the movie and support it, and even to the people who want something from me that they're not going to get. I'm grateful.
Everybody, Halloween comes out next Friday. Go see it and give a big round of applause for the great Jamie Lee Curtis.